Inside is a dark and twisted game. Around every corner and under every rock, there is something hiding. Something that unravels the overarching mystery bit by bit. While it is tempting to just dive right into all the big juicy bits of lore, we won't be doing that just yet. No, today we are starting from the beginning, as a lone boy makes his way through a dark, lonely forest. Welcome to the Inside Lore series, where in today's episode we will be discussing the woods and the farm. This video will be divided up into two sections, the first being all in-game confirmed information, and the second being my own theories about the overarching story within the world of Inside. We begin as a boy in a red shirt slides down a rocky incline into a forest. Taking a few steps, we can see a small Easter egg at the bottom of the screen that, after cranking up the brightness, we can clearly see the kid from Playdead's prior game, Limbo. Moving on, we eventually run into a set of barriers with men wearing white masks loading up dozens of people into a truck. Hopping down, the boy automatically sneaks when nearing the men, possibly hinting at a prior experience or knowledge of what they'll do to him if they catch him. And, as we can see, they're not gentle about capturing this kid. In the background, we can also spot a bunch of these pod things that I assume all the people in the truck came from. Maybe they're growing people, maybe they put them in there to make them more easily controllable, or maybe it's something else. Currently, we don't know. Regardless, the fact a few of these masked men are standing outside of a pod that's not glowing tells me there's something inside that they definitely want. And speaking about inside, we find a huge barrier which also tells me that these men don't want what's ever inside those pods to get loose. Stepping over a random fridge, we see the truck from earlier stop at a checkpoint before continuing on with the captured people. It's here where the boy is eventually spotted by the dogs, which charge him on sight. These dogs are also pretty strange looking. They're female wolf-like things with no tails and an unnaturally large jaw. As the player walks down a cleared path, a van is seen searching for him, and once spotted, he is chased relentlessly. The boy passes more dilapidated items, and the chase eventually ends as the boy jumps into a nearby lake. If the boy swims left, he can find a yellow wire leading to a secret area where a person was previously camping, rather recently on the account of the smoke. Pushing over a wooden pillar, the boy can disconnect this glowing orb, which is essential for completing the secret ending. Leaving the hidden cave, the boy sneaks past more masked men and makes it to the shore where a few dead pigs lay. He keeps moving on and finds himself in a cornfield with yet another secret location. Entering this bunker, for the most part, it appears to be your standard doomsday bunker. However, when entering the red room, we can disconnect another orb and spot a picture of the huddle. Since we haven't found all the orbs yet, we can't access the other room, but we'll come back to this at a later date. Exiting the bunker and cornfield, out of nowhere, baby chicks begin to appear and follow the boy. He passes another pile of dead pigs that, interestingly enough, are near a large puddle of water. Using the chicks to knock over a hay bale, the boy continues. Also, just to make you feel even worse about this section, there's a little dumpy chick that is slower than the rest, and when you shoot them at the hay bale, it's the only one that dies. I know, I'm a monster too. The boy eventually finds more dead pigs. This time, however, there are worms coming out of them and the dirt below. Hanging a left and breaking a wooden plank, we can find dozens of living pigs locked away in the barn, and when climbing up, we can find another orb. It's also interesting to note that all these pigs are starved and weirdly lumpy. It's almost as if they want to lock them away here so they can all starve to death and not die of some other thing, potentially the worms. The boy makes his way to another abandoned building where a pig, seemingly dead, awakes and starts to chase him. Tricking it into smashing its head against some machinery, we are able to pull the worm out of its butt and the pig returns to normal. Also, ew. Moving the now docile pig backwards, we can find a dangling hat thing that, once worn, allows the boy to control the people behind him. And if we listen really closely, we can hear that they're actually sleeping. Making it out of the facility, dawn begins to break as the boy passes multiple broken cars and garbage heaps before encountering a massive walled-off city, which we will save for next time. In the meantime, let's talk about some theories. So right off the bat, the question is, who the hell is this kid? He clearly knows to be careful around those masked men and is obviously drawn to something. There's no way he's just out for a stroll or just dinking around seeing what kind of shenanigans he can get into. He's driven. We can also glean this from the fact that he's the only character in the game to wear red, which historically is symbolic for courage. Yet maybe he's not doing this of his own free will. Something is either calling him or someone is controlling him. We know by the end the boy will go to the huddle, be absorbed, and escape. So that something would most definitely be the huddle. But why this boy? Why not some scientist close to the project? This leads me to believe that those pods found in the woods grow these mind-controllable people. Like the pigs we see, they're livestock, grown to simply be used for menial labor. Kind of like the replicants from Blade Runner. It's a common misconception that replicants are robots or synthetic beings, when in fact they're like lab-grown humans created for labor. The problem with replicants is that some of them can develop consciousnesses, and that leads to all sorts of problems. Anyway, I'm inclined to believe that the pods grow these docile humans who are far more susceptible to mind control. Potentially, they are brain dead, just husks with nothing going on inside, which allows for zero possibility of them revolting, and just slumping over when they're not quote-unquote in use. This is why, if the huddle is controlling the boy, he can only control him and not a scientist, because he too is one of these pod people. And it's also why we start in the woods, as the boy was just, for lack of a better term, born. But I think this goes deeper than that. What if there's an unseen third party? What if someone from the bunker we find is the one controlling the boy? We see in the bunker pictures of the huddle, so perhaps this is a disgruntled scientist who just wants to set the huddle free. They then strategically place the orbs to boost the range of the mind control ability and are puppeting the boy throughout the game. If you know about the secret ending, this theory leads some credence, but we'll just stick a pin in this theory for now. But speaking of control, which I feel will be a very prominent theme going on in the series, let's talk about those worms. They instantly got me thinking about Spinochordotus. This is a parasitic worm that has its larvae ingested by grasshoppers or crickets, which then results in the parasite being able to control the grasshopper. Once it's grown, it causes the host to jump into water and drown itself. I mention this because a handful of these pig corpses are found right next to bodies of water. And when not next to water, these worms are reaching upward towards the rain. Perhaps these worms have evolved in jumped species, infecting pigs and higher beings, as we'll later see, instead of grasshoppers. What's really interesting is that currently, in real life, we don't know how these parasites are able to control these grasshoppers. So perhaps in this world, there's an outbreak of these parasitic worms, and after a cure is developed, scientists discover how they can control others, then use it for their own nefarious means. Regardless, there is a lot to talk about, and this is only our first step, but I know the deeper we go, the stranger and more twisted this mystery becomes.